Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Pinellas County School Board meeting for November 13th. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, there's no amendments to the agenda this morning.
Thank you. May we have an adoption of the agenda? Do I have a motion? Is it? Thank you so much. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? I'm seeing lights. Is this accurate? Smith, Koperski, Simonetti, and Lentino. Are those lights accurate for right now? Not for. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Ms. Simonetti, no you? Your light is lit. Thank you. This morning we have a special treat. We have the invocation by Dr. Dywayne Hinds, Executive Director of Middle School Education. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, our national anthem, and our national anthem today will be sung by the Dixie, Hollins Rebel Clefs, and we have with them their choral teacher, Matthew Schwartz, and there will be a second song that Mr. Schwartz will in fact introduce. Would you please stand, Mr. Hinds?
Let us pray. We thank you for this day. We thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for allowing us, God, to see this moment in time. We ask that you would bless this time of sharing together in this meeting, that you would allow us to make decisions that for the betterment of our students and our stakeholders that we serve. We thank you even in this time of Thanksgiving that for all your many blessings, for those that we are able to support in this time. We thank you. We ask that you would continue to guide our thoughts and bless our schools, our leaders in our schools, our students, our families. Keep us together. Help us to be mindful of the work that you've called us to do. We even thank you for the board members that have served faithfully and that today will represent their last time as a board member. But we thank you for the legacy that they will leave. We thank you for the lives that they have touched and the sacrifices they have made along the way. And even those that will join this board, we ask that you would just bless them and guide them and continue to allow us to be a great district, a district that is serving all students and meeting the needs of all our stakeholders. In your name we pray and give thanks. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated for the second song.
So our second song today is called Garden of Roses, and it's an original by Aaliyah Everett, who's going to be singing and playing on the guitar. We went with this song because it illustrates our dedication to original music at Dixie Hollins High School. We have found that one of the best ways to get through some of our struggles and some of our highs and some of our lows is in song. And this is a really great example of that. She's backed up by several of her friends, and I think that that's also very symbolic of what we do at Dixie, is we back each other up in song and in other ways. So, Aaliyah, when you're ready, this is Garden of Roses.
I don't mind your touch or your vibe, and everything is dancing to the rhythm of my breathing. You gave me your smile, your eyes when I could not see, as we're swimming through the oceans. You are taking my emotion. Running through the garden of roses, for you, for you, for you, for you. I'm running through the garden of roses, for you, for you, for you, for you. Through that door, you're sending, surrounded by my words. We know all we have tonight is our loneliness. I can finally see a way to get through this storm. You meet me at the station with eyes of adoration. Running through the garden of roses, for you, for you, for you, for you. I'm running through the garden of roses, for you, for you, for you, for you.
Thank you so very much. It takes a lot of courage to sit before individuals and play music, let alone something that you wrote for yourself. And maybe I'm dating myself, but that took me back to the days of Fleetwood Mac. Just the tune, the undercurrent of the tune. So that was wonderful. I want to again thank the choral teacher, Matthew Schwartz, as well as the students, Lynn Manuel Miranda, who arranged some tunes, Alex Lackamore. If I mispronounce your name, I'm so sorry. And Aaliyah Everett and several others. Thank you all so very much for being here with us on today. That was absolutely marvelous. Yes. Okay, we have next coming with us a video. Following the devastation of Hurricane Michael, a Highland Lakes elementary third grade teacher decided that she wanted to help. Let's watch how her students stepped up to provide toiletries and school supplies to make life more comfortable for their peers in the Panhandle.
When I was greeting the kids at the door the day after the hurricane hit, a couple of them were kind of like, did you hear about the hurricane? Did you hear what happened? And so I knew we'd have to talk about it as a class. I decided for them it would be really important to see that there is a world beyond them, and that even though they're 8 and 9 years old, that they can make a huge difference in other kids' lives.
We cannot rebuild these students' homes, can we? We would like to, right? But we can't. But we can rebuild their spirits.
Some teachers had told me, you've got to go down to Port St. Joe because they've just lost everything. They've lost everything. And so any kind of help would be great. Each of them are going to be receiving a backpack. They're going to be receiving 5 bars of soap, highlighters, pencils, notebooks, water, toothbrushes for their whole family. These are all based on things that I've been told that the kids really need, not only to survive in school, but to survive at home. And that was our goal, that they have the tools that they need to keep learning, but that they also have the tools to kind of be a little bit more comfortable at home. I'm anxious to deliver hope and help to all of these people and to all of these schools and to my fellow teachers, to really try to know that let them know that they're not alone.
Dear Panhandle friends, we know you are having some hard times.
We hope things will get better for you, and don't let sadness and fear get in the way of the things you love.
Never give up.
These kids just make my heart so happy, and happy to come to work every single day. They surprise me. You know, they've taught me a really big lesson that they can make a change and that they're aware of what's happening around them. And it makes me hopeful for our future.
Wow, that was fabulous. Hope and help. I was also remiss in not thanking again our very own Dr. Dywayne Hinds for delivering such a moving blessing to get us forward on today. So thank you, Dr. Hinds. We now have with us an introduction of professional and community organizations by Lisa M. Wolf, the Public Information Officer. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Grego and staff. It is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organization. Representing the Pinellas Educational Support Professionals Association, Nellie Hinds. I believe she stepped out. With the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, Mike Gandolfo. With the Pinellas County Council of PTAs, Reagan Miller. Representing the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, Randy Halesso and Maria Cantones. And today we will have a presentation from the Student Rights and Responsibilities Committee. Please welcome from Dixie Hollins High School, Mel Garcia, Leilani Escona, and Rihanna Styler.
Good morning, Pinellas County School Board. Here on behalf of Dixie and Hollins High School, I am Mel Garcia, Student Body President, and with me I have Leilani, Senior Council President, and Rihanna Styler, Treasurer. Today we'll be presenting information regarding our school, such as our growing magnet programs, awards, and positive changes that we have experienced as well as a few items that could be improved on to continue the success of our school.
Within the Dixie community, we have several magnet programs that allow our students to excel in all areas of interest. Whether your heart belongs to animation, to math, to the culinary arts, or perhaps better preparing yourself for college, Dixie has it all. Starting with our culinary program, recently we had 7 team award winners at last week's culinary competition, with one of the teams placing first in gourmet meals. Our culinary program is constantly expanding and improving. Each year we reach our maximum capacity of students, which is 151. These same 151 students receive their Surf Safe and ProStar certifications within the first year entering. A brand new restaurant has also been added to the campus. Along with the addition of the culinary restaurant, the Academy of Entertainment and Arts has upgraded their program. This includes music production, film, gaming, commercial arts, and a brand new one, Anarchy Animation, that is added for next year's students. The enrollment rate of our Academy of Entertainment Arts has increased by 54%. Another inclusive program that we offer is our prestigious Cambridge Academy. The enrollment has increased by 29% and continues to rise since we are allowing more and more students to enter this program. Our ACE General Papers class, taught by Dr. Rogowski, has a 100% pass rate this past year. Another program that offers valuable life and career skills is our AVID program. This program is another inclusive factor of our school that strengthens collaborative skills and allows students to achieve their maximum potential. One of those students was chosen from all of Hernando and Pinellas County to attend the AVID institution this past summer.
At Dixie, we strive to create an environment that is diverse and socially accepting. We had a Sunshine State Scholar Award for Pinellas County. We also have several FBLA district winners in marketing, organizational leadership, and business communication. Our JROTC team last year was 3rd in the nation. Our Rebels Regiment marching band from last Saturday's music performance assessment scored all excellent ratings, and for the 3rd year in a row, our choir has been accepted to perform at Disney. We have received 48 different awards in Scholastic's Art and Writing Competition region and within the AEA Academy, Best Picture, Best Editing, and 7 Semi Awards received in the categories of Best Game, Best Video Production, and Best Photography. Our sports teams are excelling within their fields. Our state-level diving team and state wrestling team, our regional-level track team, and our rising cross-country and soccer team are just some examples.
In order to improve, there things need to be improved on, and for our school, that is the student-to-teacher ratio, the availability of counselors, and the implementation of study hall before or after lunch. Last year, we were the highest in the county among graduation rates. 93% of our students walked down Tropicana Field to receive their diploma as a Dixie student. Mr. Florio has implemented tardy sweeps while walking around with his broom to make sure that all students are getting to class on time. He has changed the disciplinary actions to after-school detentions to ensure students get the maximum amount of class time, and an alternative for suspensions, incentives for perfect attendance, and good grades. The building of a new student center will be utilized as a reward and resource for students needing extra assistance or a fun, relaxing spot for those who are working hard. Thank you, School Board, for listening to our weaknesses and strengths. We love our school and appreciate your time. And as always, stay frosty.
What a wonderful job. I am a rebel as well. I'm not going to say the year. I told the music teacher, but I'm not going to say that publicly. I'm not claiming it today. And thank you so very much to your principal, Mr. Bob Florio, as well. So thank you all. You did an absolutely wonderful job. Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, we're moving on. We have our special order agenda. We have the recognition of the proclamation for Family Engagement and Education Month. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, and to the audience, family engagement is such an important piece of our school district and the success of our school district, and it gives me great pleasure to call upon Dr. Valerie Brimm, Director of Office of Strategic Partnerships, and the job she does, but also to bring special light to family engagement this month.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. First, I want to thank the board members, Dr. Grego and staff, for your belief and acknowledgement that family engagement is an integral part of the learning process. When we think about, we have approximately 100,000 students in our district. And when we consider that over 51% of our families did not opt out of receiving correspondences via Peach Jar, that our parents want to be informed and want to receive information from our district and our staff. Approximately, when we think about it, 17% of our parents will respond to parent surveys according to the Advanced Ed survey. And approximately 10 to 12% will attend parent engagement events at their school. And less than 5% are participating on SAC and PTA, which brings us to the reality that family engagement can no longer be measured only solely by attendance, that family engagement looks different at each household. So here is what we know. All parents have hopes and dreams that their child will be successful. All parents have a level of capacity. And when I use that word capacity, I think about a gas tank. For those of us who have cars, we all have gas tanks. But when we leave our home, the gas in our gas tank varies from 1/4 of a gas tank to half a gas tank full. So we have to think about the capacity of our families are different, but we must build their capacity to make sure they have the tools and the resources to support their students at home. Parents want to hear from their child's teacher, not just about behavior, but they want to know the requirements of grade level standards. They want to know the expectations. They want to know tools and resources they can receive to support at home. Parents want to feel welcome and embraced at their child's school. And parents want to know that their child's teacher have their best interest at heart. So knowing all of that, what are we doing as a district and a department? This past fall academy, we've created workshops based on parents' interests. Over 600 parents have participated in our fall academy workshops, either face-to-face or webinars. We provided training for teachers. How do we embrace our families? How do we embrace the diversity of our families? We provided the Care Map dual capacity training to over 40 schools, and more recently, we've done a refresher for several schools. We've recently trained 40 schools on their family engagement teams. We've also hosted the Alliance of Family and Community Engagement, hosted Hooked on Engagement, and they featured, our keynote speaker was Tony Dungeon. And there was over 200 participants across the state. And my takeaway was he challenged us. He said, if we impact one family, one student, or one individual, we can make a difference in the lives of our students and our families. We've conducted home visits and sat down and had conversations about data checks with our families, where their child what needs to happen. We've given parents strategies to support. For millennials, we've embraced social media. I'm not that great, but I'm getting there. So they communicate by social media. So we're working with our millennials. And lastly, we continue to encourage our school leaders that they must own family engagement, because families want to hear directly from the individuals who are impacting their child each and every day. So with all of that, how do we identify our gaps in our next steps? We are creating focus groups, particularly in our communities that address the Bridge the Gap families, to hear from them. We're meeting with community partners and who work with families and students to make sure what they're doing is aligning to what we are doing. We're developing ongoing dialogue with coaches in the community to make sure they understand academics must be just as important as the field. We're building partners with pre-K families to make sure as they transition into our school, it's not about compliance, but about engagement. And we are working to change the mindset of our school leaders and our staff about what is really true engagement, because it looks different for each and every family. So with that being said, I thank you very much for all of your support. And I have a plug for Great American Teaching tomorrow. Please come out and visit our schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have a proclamation. I've asked the school board member, Linda Lerner, read that proclamation, please.
Florida Family Engagement in Education Month. Whereas family involvement in a child's learning is critical to student success from preschool through college and sets the foundation for preparing Florida students to be lifelong learners and meaningful contributors to society. And whereas creating an environment where learning takes place not just in a classroom, but is a central part of family life requires that families play an active role in their children's education. And whereas the role of families in creating a successful preschool through college education system for Florida's children is very important. Whereas Florida's educational leaders have developed resources for families looking to engage more fully in their children's education and to strengthen the connections between families and schools. Whereas Florida Department of Education staff members are available to provide information, resources, and training to support families and educators in using school and state accountability data, making informed school choice decisions, and establishing effective homeschool collaborations so that families can be actively involved in the academic achievement and development of students. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the critical contributions made by families who foster a love for learning in their children, and by educators who acknowledge the importance of family engagement and encourage making family engagement an integral part of the mission of all schools. Now therefore, I, Rick Scott, Governor of Florida, do hereby proclaim November 2018 as Florida Family Engagement in Education Month and encourage families and schools to create strong partnerships on behalf of the future of our children, our state, and our nation.
Thank you. We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so very much. You're doing a fabulous job. Your
Yes.
whole team, your whole department, doing an absolutely fabulous job. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation of proclamation observing National Education Support Professionals Day.
Thank you.
Is the
Ms. Flowers.
motion, do I have a second? There you go, Dr. Grego.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Flowers. And it's always a pleasure to publicly recognize all of our support professionals, whatever their job classification might be, to the support of our school district. We could not operate our school district without our support professionals, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ms. Paula Texel, the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, to acknowledge this day and this month, and also the proclamation.
Good morning, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. I am truly honored to be here this morning to acknowledge the wonderful support employees that we have in Pinellas County Schools. Even though we appreciate our support professionals throughout the year, tomorrow, November 14th, 2018, is specifically designated as National Educational Support Professional Day. These employees support our students, our teachers, and our community as a whole on a daily basis. I would like to recognize Ms. Nellie Henyas, who is president of PESPA, and also Mike Gandolfo, the executive director of PESPA, for being here and in attendance this morning, and also for the work that you all do on behalf of those employees in our district. So thank you very much. We are very proud to present this proclamation on behalf of our employees. And so with that, I believe we have a proclamation to be read.
Yes, we do. We have a proclamation that will be read by School Board Member Peggy O'Shea.
Excuse me. National Education Support Professionals Day. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas education support professionals are an integral part of the education process. And whereas education support professionals provide a safe and healthy learning environment for students. And whereas education support professionals work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. Now therefore, the school board and superintendent of Pinellas County Schools do hereby proclaim Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, as National Education Support Professionals Day, and urge that all that observe this day by taking time to recognize and acknowledge the importance of education support professionals in our public schools.
Thank you, school board member. We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? We have time now for public comments. Ms. Simonetti?
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have 3 speakers this morning for specific agenda items. Our first 2 are Mr. Joe Marteski for consent number 9, followed by Mark Clutho for consent 12, 13, 14, and non-consent 4 and 6.
Thank you, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego and staff. My name is Joe Marteski. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Bell of the Ball Project. On behalf of our board of directors, volunteers, and students, we would like to thank you for your support. It would have been very difficult for us to achieve our mission. No girl should be denied the opportunity to attend her high school dance because of financial difficulties without the Pinellas County School Board support. The lease of the facility at 1210 Holt Avenue in Clearwater to Bell of the Ball was crucial to our operation. Bell of the Ball is the leading Tampa Bay prom and homecoming dress provider to needy girls. We partner with all other such organizations in the Tampa Bay area, the school districts of Pinellas, Hillsborough, Hernando, Pasco, and Citrus, and many other organizations. Founded in 2003 by Susan Schwartz, Bell of the Ball gave out dresses to 686 students from our facility in 2018. This is a record 25% more than last year, and since its inception in 2003, we've given out 6,700 dresses. Because of the huge success of our 39 year-round distribution points and generous corporate donors, we receive far more dresses than we can give out. And we supplied 1,200 dresses to other organizations in 2018, including our sister organization, Gathering of Women in St. Petersburg, Shriners Hospital, Tampa, Polk Project in Polk County, and 7 Tim Tebow churches for their Tim Tebow Foundation Night to Shine events throughout the Florida area. Bell of the Ball also provided tuxedo scholarships to 6 students, continuing this program through Cicino Swimwear. Generosity. Few, if any, other organizations serve boys. All of the Pinellas County School District personnel we dealt with were professional, courteous, supportive, competent, and helpful. And we humbly think Bell of the Ball Project is the premier organization of its type in the United States, and we would not be able to do what we do without your support. Thank you again for your support.
Mark Lutho Largo. Here we go. More dumb buildings. $2,376,000 for the engineering design and construction administration. What a boondoggle. And the strategic direction, effective and efficient use of resources. What a lie. 13. Learning in a safe environment, not. And 14, you've fixed the exterior of these buildings. Oh, yeah. What happened there? Oh, boy. You know, and it goes back to the old cause and effect. What just was in the paper, toughen Florida's building code. And yesterday, we can mitigate storm damage. Well, what's going to happen when the Michael hits here? You will be running around like chickens with your heads cut off. Oh yeah, where was I? Request approval of the salary increase for administrators. Well, too many of those. It's money up in smoke. Way too much. I remember my wife, the teacher, saying, we just need to be able to teach. We don't need all that direction.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Mike Gandolfo for non-consent number 4.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. On behalf of the President of Pinellas Education Support Professionals Association, Nellie Hinds, and the members of PESPA, I humbly request that this board approve the non-consent item before you to approve the tentative agreement between Pinellas County Schools and PESPA. Recent years have been very challenging as the state has seen fit to limit funding for public education. Our educational support professionals work hand in hand with teachers and provide a valuable service in the education of our students. This important role is not one that has been compensated accordingly. However, PESPA feels that the Pinellas County Schools and this board does its best under the financial constraints placed on them by a Tallahassee-influenced budget, and they would like this board to know that those efforts are appreciated. It has been said that bargaining ain't no tea party. But bargaining this year, as it was last year, has been collaborative and respectful, and PESPA feels that this board has made an effort not only to acknowledge the role of support professionals, but to begin to raise their pay to an acceptable standard. We understand that this effort may take years, but the effort itself must be acknowledged and appreciated by PESPA. On a separate note, and at the risk of a verbal reprimand from board counsel for speaking on a separate topic, I would like to remind this board that this is School Psychology Awareness Week, and I would ask the board and Dr. Grego to acknowledge the important work and services these health professionals provide for our students. So hug a school counselor, a school psychologist sometime this week. You too, counselor. Thank you.
I was making a note of what he just said, acknowledging school psychologists, so I do apologize. With our, with a proclamation. But we can hug them today, too. Yeah. All right. Thank you so very much for your public comments on agenda items. Moving forward to unfinished business. Public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 1213, student supervision and welfare. Dr. Grego?
Move approval. Second. Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, we have 5 public hearings today on policy changes. I'm going to ask Jennifer Dell, who's the Director of Strategic Planning and Policy, to kind of orchestrate this. We have other folks that support this, but let me say for the public sense is that this board reviewed each of these policy changes. This is the second reading of all 5 of these. We'll take them individually, obviously, but There's been no changes of any of these, so I don't have to continue to repeat myself on these. I'll just say that, Michael, you're done. I'll just say that for all of them. There's been no changes since the first reading, so let's begin with the first one, and let me introduce Jennifer Dull. Thank you very much.
Good morning, board members, staff, and community. Our first agenda item for unfinished business has to do with a bundle of policies that completely relate to safety and security, especially following legislation, most notably the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. You'll notice in there are 3 policies that are labeled with student supervision and welfare. They relate to administrative, instructional, and support staff updates to the policy. It clarifies language. You'll notice in many of these, it's updated language to designate our safety administrator, which was part of the act. In entrance requirements, policy 5112, it outlines the parental reporting requirements that were put into the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. And in policy 8405, school safety, that's the one where you will see the most changes. Again, it outlines all the components that we are required to do by law and have been implementing. We are now codifying them within our policy language. Policy 8410, crisis event intervention and response. The updates there actually clarify the language and the updating of student support staff in our new lingo. So this is about Donna Sicilian's group, rather than calling them school counselors, which oftentimes gets confused between school counseling with the guidance sense versus the student support staff that Donna Sicilian works with and support our students every day. Policy 8420 will go through a name change to be emergency preparedness of schools, and it updates the language to make sure we're in accordance with the laws with all drills that we must provide within our schools. And school visitors in 9150 has been updated for language clarification around administrative responsibilities. So with that, I bring you the bundle of policies in the first agenda item for school safety.
Also, Mr. Herbeck is prepared to answer any questions as he presented this. This is most of this was from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, as Ms. Dull mentioned. So Mr. Herbeck is a partner with this one. So any questions from the board?
Ms. Latino, are your questions regarding when we get to the consent agenda or?
The DMAC, number 2, non-consent.
Okay, we'll be there shortly. Did we have anyone from the audience who wants to speak, Miss? No speakers. So there's a motion with a second. No comments from the board members. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you so very much. Moving on to item number 2, public hearing to consider the amendments to policy 2260.1 dealing with religious expression in public schools. Do we have a motion with a second? Dr. Grego?
Madam Chair, I'm going to ask Mr. Koperski, the board's counsel, to just go review this religious expression with in public schools policy briefly, as he did in the workshop.
Thank you, Dr. Grego, Madam Chair, board members. As noted, this is a second reading, no changes since the first. In 2017, the Florida legislature passed a law that required each school board in the state to adopt the DOE model policy. Well, that model policy took a long time to complete, and so as soon as it was done at the DOE level, Ms. Dull brought forward your first reading, and we're here at the second reading. So this is very simple. We have adopted the model policy as required by statute. That being said, it does relate to certain religious issues, and I, as well as Ms. Dart and Ms. Wallace, will continue to be vigilant in making sure that, notwithstanding a state law, that the federal constitution is not violated in any way through the Establishment Clause or the Free Expression Clause.
We have a motion with a second. Board members, do you have any questions? I don't see any lights. Do we have speakers from speakers from the audience?
We have one speaker for this item, Mark Clutho.
Mark Clutho, Largo. I thought there was supposed to be a separation of church and state. And public schools, to me, are definitely separated from the church. That just doesn't seem right. There shouldn't be any room for religion in the public schools. Leave it for your churches. It's simple. You know, I was sent by my mother and father to 13 years of Catholic school. I didn't have a say. Of course, they didn't get any money from the state for that. It was all out of their pocket, not any deductibles or anything like that. You know, and this "in God we trust" stuff. Which God? Any proof? Science, where's the science? This is all a big absurdity.
School Board Member Valentino.
Yes, I did have a comment. As it reads here, religious expression in public schools. I think the word expression, it sort of implies that there's going to be some sort of recruitment involved with this religious expression. I don't know if we have other religious organizations, temples, mosques, or any other rental facilities want to use our public schools as a facility for an activity. And I think, I don't know what the law really reads. Does it list all the other organizations that would want to rent any of our public schools?
Madam Chair, no, the law doesn't. The law is relatively straightforward. In fact, if you look at the model policy in your agenda, it is essentially a very basic recitation of the actual statute. And I can send that to the board after the meeting if you'd like. But I do want to clarify that term expression, as you might be interpreting it or others may interpret it, that is not a correct interpretation. There is no indoctrination or proselytization being undertaken here. In essence, this statute and the model policy is an anti-discrimination provision where it's clarified in the law that schools, public schools, may not discriminate against religion. So, for example, it says if outside organizations, secular, non-religious organizations, are allowed to lease our property, which they are, then religious organizations may lease them on the same basis, which they currently can. So a lot of this is what we were doing anyway. We do not discriminate on the basis of religion. This codifies it, but to the extent that people try to reach this or read this or interpret it to be greater than what the Constitution allows, we'll be there to challenge that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Ms. Lerner?
Just to clarify a couple of things, student-led and initiated groups like Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Gay Straight Alliances, they're student-led initiated activities before or after school or other days and are treated like other clubs. And even though this wasn't mentioned, that as far as curriculum, I think there is an approved course on comparative religions. I believe that's true. And what the policy states, I know some Jewish students at St. Pete High prayed around the flagpole. If it's before or after school, I believe a staff person could be part of that, but not during the school day. Is that correct, Mr. Koperski?
Well, I think a lot of that will be fact dependent. This policy contemplates that, and I do think that people have the free exercise rights to exercise their religion in their private capacities.
Yes.
I don't want to get too deeply into it, but I could envision a set of facts where a faculty member is with the exact students that they're about to oversee and teach, and just minutes after praying with them, if they're the supervisor of them in a public employment capacity, that could pose a constitutional problem.
Okay.
That does not answer your question, but it's
okay.
As I said, it's fact dependent, but this law does contemplate, and I don't want to say that it's not allowed, but there might be certain factual situations that it would be problematic.
And we have long workshops on all these issues. I should have asked the question at the workshop, but I just came to my mind. But thank you for the answer. And I know some things have to be interpreted based on the circumstances related to many of our policies. So thank you.
I hope you ask me another question today so that I can directly answer a question before you leave the board.
Okay, I'll work on it. Okay.
Are there any other questions by board members? Seeing none and having no other speakers speak on the subject, we do have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have our public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 5410, regular program core curriculum, promotion, retention, acceleration, etc. Do we have a motion with a second? It's been moved and seconded. Dr. Grego,
Yes, thank
please.
you, Madam Chair. This is part of a series of policies that center around our pupil progression plan. So Jennifer will introduce it, but I know Mr. Hendrick is also, Associate Superintendent, is also here to answer any questions. And this, too, was reviewed during our previous workshop.
So this is part of the student progression plan. It comes to you each year following legislation. We brought it to you in September for workshop and then in October for first reading. This year in the updates from legislator, it impacts 3 different policies. The first policy it impacts is 5410.02, regular core program curriculum promotion, retention, acceleration for middle school. So some of the updates within there are aligning to the statute with regards to the math assessment and alignment, as well as the promotion in accordance for high school. The second policy it impacts is 5430, which is class rank. There's updated language regarding the valedictorian and salutatorian identification. Specifically, if a student has been in an IB program for 3 years and then leaves the program and goes to a different school. And then policy 5460 within graduation requirements. You may recall back in May, we hosted the state board meeting here. At that board meeting, they voted on the updated concordance and comparative scores. So this policy incorporates those changes that the state board updated back in May.
Thank you so much. Do we have any speakers on this matter?
No speakers for this item.
No speakers. Any board members with any comments or concerns? I just want to say, and I'm sure we're going to do this, just to make sure that we are providing the students and the parents with the change in the concordance scores. We always have right up to graduation day that little where a person may think they are receiving the valedictorian or salutatorian and whatnot. So I'm sure we're going to do it, but
Absolutely.
just to make sure that we get that information out since we're doing the change here.
And for the board's just knowledge, the concordance score change for the PERT is gradually coming in. It's grandfathered in, so it's for the current 9th graders, I believe. So it's still 3 more years until they hit that 12th grade. So we'll continue to reinforce that and communicate that. And so the one thing that I always appreciate is the grandfathering of these rules so they're not dropped in with the sitting seniors or juniors or sophomores.
And that's what I mean, because sometimes people get panicky.
Right.
So just making sure we share. But thank you so very much. We have a motion with a second. We have no speakers and no further comments by board members. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 754.0.03 network internet acceptable use agreements. Do we have a motion with a second? It's been seconded. Dr. Grego?
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, this is a policy change that is actually coming to us through statute also, but it's also one that's worked with Tom Lechner, Mr. Lechner, who oversees the TIS department, so Jennifer, and I believe Tom's here if you have any questions too. He's in the back.
So this agenda brings 2 policies forward again, 7540.03 around network internet acceptable use agreement. What's been updated this one is to ensure that anyone that uses a private device on our network assumes the acceptable use policy for their device as they come on our network. And 7540.04 also refers to that. There is some clarifying language that was put in there around the communication guide and where to go for things. It also cleans up some language around the change in titles for TIS, the actual department name, and it updates the policies that are practices that we have around password updating for staff. So those are the 2 within this agenda item.
Thank you. Ms. Minetti, do we have any speakers?
We have no speakers on this item.
No speakers. School board members, do we have any comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, we have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any opposed? Motion carries. And our last and final public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 8810, the American flag. Do we have a motion with a second? Been motioned and seconded. Dr. Grego?
Change of policy that I believe Mr. Koperski and also Jennifer presented last week, so go ahead.
So this policy updates, it has a name change from American flag to patriotic displays. It is in direct relation to the legislative from last session, in which in House Bill 7055, it said that in each school and building used by the board, the state motto, "In God We Trust," designated under state law, will be displayed in a conspicuous, I can't say the word, conspicuous, there you go, place. So within that, this is an update to the policy to make sure it aligns. For public knowledge, the way we have actually implemented that is to put the state symbol on each front of each building, and the financial implications for that are noted here.
Thank you. Mr.
How many speakers on this topic, Mr. Minetti?
We have one speaker on this policy, Mark Clutho.
Thank you.
Mark Clutho, Largo. Let me start with those famous words from Dr. Samuel Johnson. Patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. Yeah, the motto of the state, "In God We Trust." Yeah, the invisible man up there in space. While all along you ignore science, hard, fast science. Doggone shame. Gonna waste money putting some motto up on the building while the building's dumb. And for both the religious expression in public schools and the public hearing for this American flag issue, your strategic direction, learning, and a safe environment. What? How do you figure? And remember, that American flag come from that scammer over 100 years ago that said, "I have a plan." It was to sell flags in schools. That's what the pledge was. We'll pledge this flags, and then I can sell these things to all the public schools. Yeah. Patriotism. For all the suckers. All the suckers. And how many of you had to live in a hole in the ground in the jungle? All you patriots.
Do we have any comments by board members on this particular agenda item? Having none, I just want to thank Ms. Linda Lerner for coming up with what I think was a real good solution to this particular concern when you stated we should make it viewable but small. Viewable but small. Ms. Lerner.
But it was the district that came up with the state seal.
Yes.
And I think that was a very good way to do it. So thank
So
you.
a combination of thoughts.
Yes,
But I wanted
absolutely.
to give you, I wanted to give you credit. Viewable but small. Yeah. All right. So having no further comments or questions on this public agenda item, we have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Do we have any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all so very much, and thank you for the comments that we received on today. Moving forward with the consent agenda item, consent approvals. Do we have a motion with a second?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have two lights. The first from Ms. Lentino.
Yes. I recently attended the DMAC meeting. A school board member is seated at the DMAC meetings on a rotating basis. And the conversation from the Education Committee chairperson.
I'm sorry, Ms. Lentino, if you're talking about non-consent, we're just on consent.
Oh.
So if you're talking about DMAC, which is non-consent item number 2, that's going to be next. This is voting on the consent agenda items 1 through 17.
All right,
I'm
got
sorry.
it.
So did you want to pull something on consent?
Yeah, on page 289 in the agenda packet, and that would be, let's see.
That's non-consent.
Yeah, non-consent, number 2. I mean, I'm sorry, the DMAC on number 2,
But
289.
This is consent. So right now we're voting on the consent agenda, which is separate.
Okay,
That's
we'll vote.
And then we'll go on to non-consent, and
Thank
then when
you
we
for
get
that.
to item number 2, then you can speak on that one.
Certainly.
Okay, all right. Do we have anyone that desires to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay. Do we have a motion with a second on the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now moving to non-consent, we'll take non-consent number 1 and then number 2. Non-consent item number 1, setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 1590 that deals with personnel files. We have a motion. Do we have a second? This is the first reading. Dr. Grego?
Yes, it is the first reading. We're asking the board's approval to file this and to place a date. And Jennifer and Ms. Texel went over this in our last workshop, and it deals with some statutory changes on the personnel file. So, Jennifer?
Thank you again. It's kind of my meeting.
It's like the
I have
Jennifer
lots-
show
I know.
today.
I've got lots of policies today. So this policy actually impacts 3 different policies: 1590, 3590, and 4590, which are personnel files. What I want to say first off is that Pinellas County Schools in practice has been doing this. However, in the legislative changes, it asked us specifically to put these things in policy. The specific wording that has changed and been updated is to ensure that if a staff member is under investigation and chooses to resign, that a notation be in their file, in their staff file. So that is for this policy.
Any questions?
Thank you. Any speakers? Questions? Do we have any school board members with any comments or concern on non-consent item number 1? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Non-consent item number 2, setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment. Do we have a motion with a second? Is there a second? We have an introduction by Dr. Grego, and then Ms. Lentino, your
Yes,
comments and questions.
Thank you. Mr. Koperski?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Grego. Madam Chair, I introduce this first reading of the policy as it falls under this area. The District Monitoring and Advisory Committee, as you know, was created through the settlement of our desegregation case, the Bradley case, in 2000. And the court order at that time was a settlement agreement, but the board and the plaintiff class, as adopted by the court order, agreed that the school board would adopt a policy and create DMAC as basically a board subcommittee. And at that point, it was created and has been operating ever since. The only way that DMAC policy may change, according to the court order, is through a recommendation of the DMAC body itself. There are 10 members on DMAC right now, and the change that they are recommending to be made is the inverse of something we did several years ago, and that is when the NAACP St. Petersburg branch lost their national chapter, they were removed from DMAC. However, they have been reconstituted and given that charter again. So the recommendation here in front of you is to add back, at the recommendation of DMAC, add back the NAACP South, also known as the NAACP St. Petersburg branch, as a constituent organization of DMAC. And then there are some other technical changes throughout that changes the number of a quorum, et cetera. but that is the essence of this change.
Okay, thank you for the introduction on that. Ms. Lentino?
Yes, I attended, as I said earlier, the DMAC meeting, and it was brought to my attention when one of the education persons was speaking to the summer school program that we were offering for elementary, middle schools, and high schools, that obviously data was not collected to show any gains in bridging the gap plan, or as we're coming to terms with, we're mixing titles of bridging the gap and the summer school program that we're offering for elementary, middle, and high school students. It's very critical that we have data collected to show the advancement of the summer school program. I don't know that there was any data. I don't know where the data has been. And there was a big discussion about collecting data for the summer school program. In the elementary school level, I don't know what's happening there. I don't know what's happening in the middle school level, and I don't know what's happening in the high school level. But I think it would be incumbent upon us as a school board to make sure that we see that the children in our schools are making gains. We've also noticed that there's a great drop from the children that are registered for the first day of school, that gradually the numbers drop off. Are we not engaging the children in elementary, middle, and high school students? You know, that's a concern of mine. I don't know why you look so perplexed.
Because the reason for, I was trying to allow you to finish, but this particular item is very different from the subject matter that you're discussing. This item is to approve the St. Petersburg branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People to come back as a member of the DMAC committee. The conversation that you're having right now that deals with is there pre and post testing, and if so, how are we handling that? That is a separate discussion from the item that we're supposed to be approving right now. So I was trying to allow you to finish out of professional courtesy, but the item that we are discussing right now is whether or not we would allow for the St. Petersburg branch NAACP to come back as a DMAC member, and under our court ruling, we have to allow them to come back. So my suggestion would be that we go ahead and vote on the item, whether or not we would allow for the St. Petersburg branch to come back as a sitting member of the DMAC committee. And then we can take up any comments, questions, or concerns regarding data tracking, because there are pre and post tests, and there are other standard tests that are provided through the Bridging the Gap component piece and our summer bridge component. But then we come back and discuss that when we're having that dialogue and discussion. So I just don't want to mix or confuse the
Okay,
two.
thanks. We'll vote on that.
Yes.
Introduced by the board.
Yes. Yeah, but I was trying to allow for the, out of professional courtesy, for the continuation of that. So we've had the presentation as it relates to the non-consent item number 2, which is something that is court order. I am glad that they are coming back. I just want to point something out, and if I'm wrong, in your comments you said on the national level, it was the local level. It was so I just want to make sure for the record, it was the state NAACP that removed the charter of the local St. Petersburg NAACP branch, not the national. I just wanted to correct that. So we do have a motion with a second on that. Again, this is first reading. It'll come back before us. And again, this is only to have the St. Petersburg branch come back and have a seat at the table for DMAC. We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Are there any opposed? And Ms. Lentino, we certainly will have you, after we finish the non-consent items, I will make sure that we have you go first so that your concern or questions are answered regarding the tracking or testing measures and things of that nature regarding our Bridging the Gap plan. Okay. Item number 3 is setting a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 8141, mandatory reporting. Again, this is a first reading. Do we have a motion with a second? There's a motion. There is a second. Dr. Grego, presentation, please.
Yes, Ms. Dahl.
This is to set a public hearing for policy 8141, mandatory reporting. Like the first one that I did today on non-consent, I want to make sure that the public and board members know that Pinellas County Schools has always complied with the updates within this policy. Under House Bill 495, during last legislative session, some policy codifying this in policy was necessary. So what you'll see in the update is expanded definition for misconduct. It also updates the reporting requirements. What was previously in policy was reporting requirements to the Florida Department of Education. Now there are definite in policy reporting requirements to law as appropriate. And those are the changes for that policy.
Thank you.
Any comments by board members on that particular item? All right, we do have a motion with a second. This will be moving forward to a second reading. If it's approved, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much. Request approval of the tentative agreement with the Pinellas Education Support Professional Association. Do we have a motion with a second? All right, Dr. Grego, presentation, please.
Yes, it gives me great pleasure to announce and ask the boards for the board's approval of this contractual agreement with PESPA. Thank you, Ms. Agnes, Nellie, and others for your bargaining. So let me call upon Ms. Paula Texel and Lori Dart, who are our chief negotiators for this.
Good morning, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. We are here this morning to request approval of the tentative agreements with PESPA, SEIU, FPSU, and administrators, professional technical supervisory, and non-represented support staff. The first agenda item that is being presented is the request, as stated, for the approval of the tentative agreement with Pinellas Educational Support Professionals Association. Over the past several months, the district bargaining team held several collaborative sessions with PESPA, and we focused on updating our current full book agreement. As you know, we begin a new 3-year agreement with PESPA with this contract. A couple of the changes that were made were just really clarifying some definitions for employees, the grievance procedures, timelines, increments of time for sick leave, and so forth. We also updated the job description section of the book. That will be updated and I think much more readable so for everyone, so we appreciate that. In addition to contract language, the group agreed to healthcare costs, which included the board contributing approximately 86% of the increased cost. The board will also be contributing $1.9 million for the increased FRS contribution for all employees with no additional cost to those employees. And finally, support employees covered by PESPA will receive a raise equal to 2.55%, which is retroactive to July 1st. If approved today, the employees will be receiving their raises and retro checks at the end of this month. The total compensation package increase totals approximately 3.55%, which again includes salary, health care, and FRS contributions. I wanted to personally thank Nellie Henyas and Tom Lentz for their work throughout this process. A side note, I was very, very impressed with the ratification vote that was held by this group. The materials and information were readily available and very well organized in order for the employees to review the materials online. So that was wonderful. And this did pass with 98% approval, so that was great. So on behalf of the superintendent staff, we ask that you approve this recommendation.
All righty then. We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations and thank you so very much. Job well done. Moving on. Moving on to item number 5, request approval of negotiated agreement with SEIU, Florida Public Services Union. Do we have a motion with a second? We have a motion with a second. Dr. Grego, presentation.
Our second agenda item that is being presented is the request for approval of the tentative agreement with SEIU, Florida Public Services Union. I want to thank Joey Brenner and also Izzy Boyd, who is in attendance this morning, for their collaborative work that was done in order to reach an agreement that benefits all of our employees. Employees covered by SEIU FPSU will also receive a 2.55% salary increase, also retroactive to July 1st. And as mentioned earlier, if approved today, employees will be receiving their raises and retro checks at the end of this month. As with PESPA, the board will contribute approximately 86% of the increase in healthcare costs and will also contribute $1.9 million of the increased FRS contributions with no additional cost to the employees. And similar, the total compensation package increase totals approximately 3.55%, which again includes salary and healthcare and FRS contributions. I wanted to take a moment, though, to thank the board for recognizing how important it is to continue to increase the salaries for all of our employees. Over the past 7 years, our employees in the PESPA and SEIU bargaining groups, as I'm speaking to them, have received an increase of approximately 21% in salaries, not to mention the additional board contributions and to employee health care costs during that same time. This can only be done through careful monitoring, of course, of our budget, the constant review of programs, as well as your guidance throughout this process. And your support in making sure our employees continue to see increases in their salaries is definitely appreciated by all. And as we enter into a new 3-year contract with SEIU, we also had an opportunity to update various contract language, and make adjustments, including adjusting the pay differential for our bus drivers, for opportunity routes, for increasing the relief driver supplement as well. We added language that requires plant operations staff to wear required but district-provided uniform shirts. We felt that was an important thing for safety and also recognition on a campus, and that the district will provide a specific amount per year to purchase of industry-approved footwear, which we hope will also assist with any foot-related injuries that might occur. Pest control technicians will also be provided district-provided uniforms and shoe allowance similar to the plant operations. This passed with 96% voting in favor of the agreement, so another well-run vote, and we appreciate that. And on behalf of our superintendent staff, we ask that you approve this recommendation.
Fabuloso. Do we have any comments from school board members? We have a motion with a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much. And again, congratulations. Good to see you, Izzy. And Mr. Boyd, thank you so very much for your time as well. Congratulations. Thank you. Moving on to number 6, request approval of the salary increase for administrators, professional, technical, supervisory, and non-represented support staff. Do we have a motion with a second?
Approval. Second.
There's a motion with a second. May we have the presentation, please?
So our third agenda item that is being presented is the request for approval of the salary increase for administrators, professional, technical, supervisory, and non-represented support staff. Exempt employees classified as administrators and PTS will receive an average salary increase of 2.55%. Support staff, excluded from the bargaining units due to their classifications as confidential, will receive a salary increase of 2.55%. All three are retroactive to July 1st, and as mentioned earlier, if approved today, employees will be receiving their raises and retro checks either at the end of this month or at the beginning of next month, depending on the pay date that they belong to. And the board will be contributing the same in healthcare and FRS as mentioned earlier. We are moving forward with requesting the approval of these 3 groups this morning, knowing that our health insurance deductions will begin in December. Approval of these 3 groups mean that there will be no added cost to the district, as these employees can then move to their selected healthcare coverage plans and begin paying their per pay period cost. We continue to bargain with PCTA and FOP, which is our police officer force, which means we will maintain a status quo on the health care pay per period cost for those members of those bargaining groups until an agreement is reached. Also, the members of the 3 groups being recommended today share a salary schedule, and if these were not approved together, it would mean we would be working on multiple salary schedules. But finally, I think the most important thing is for us to remember that non-represented support staff members that are part of this group and we feel that these employees should receive their raises and retro pay at the same time as our other support staff who are represented under PESPA and SEIU. So on behalf of the superintendent staff, we highly recommend you approve this agreement as well.
Thank you. We have Dr. Grego and then Ms. Lentino.
I want to just thank the board and also thank Ms. Texel, Ms. Gard, for the many hours and evenings working with our unions and really with the faculty of our entire school district, non-represented, represented. To congratulate and to really say thanks to the board, I think Mr. Gandolfo said it best. We've had some very strenuous times financially over the last 4, 5, 6 years where we would anticipate greater support of teacher salaries from the state. And we haven't received it, but yet we've tried to look from within and say, how can we make teachers and support staff and all of our administrators our first priority? And so when you take a look at the last 5 years that Ms. Texel has talked about, salary alone of 21%, you add benefits and the increased cost that this board has always been so gracious to absorb the increased cost of whatever we could, and also the FRS, Florida Retirement System, to absorb it as we are today. Not all boards do that, and I want to just say thank you. That percentage raise would go well over 25%, and that's substantial in a time where the state has provided us between 1-2 type of percent over this last few years. So we're certainly hoping to change that tide, but I think it's important for our general community to recognize that we have a board and we have a school district that values its employees and wants to provide the cost of living minimally that it can. And to thank you to Nellie, thank you, and to Michael, thank you, and Paula and Lori, thank you for the work that you're doing so we can provide these raises. Certainly, and it's always nice around the holidays too, and so I just want to say thank you to this board.
Thank you as well, Ms. School Board Member Lentino, and then School Board Member Terry Krasner.
Yes, I just wanted to know, are the principals included in this group of employees?
Yes.
And do they sign a yearly contract?
Yes.
Yes.
And are there any provisions in that contract if they don't meet the expectation in the school, creating a positive climate? Is there any language in there in the contract that they sign?
They're evaluated on an annual basis. Their contract's an annual contract. So every year we provide a recommendation to this board for either renewal or non-renewal.
And then if it's non-renewed, where does the principal go?
Depends on the circumstance. I don't know if I could answer that in a general comment.
Okay.
Depends on circumstances.
Okay, I'll talk to you about it later.
School Board Member Terry Krasner.
Yes, I wanted to ask for an update on PCTA because I am concerned about their retroactive raises and the medical and everything else. Do we have anything that...
Yes, actually, we hope to settle with PCTA sooner rather than later. We have a meeting tomorrow evening, and we have offered to settle. We have tentatively agreed to health care, and so we have offered to settle health care and salaries separately. The holdup is, as Ms. Texel said, is the 3-year contract ended June 30th, so we have been methodically reviewing all of the provisions, going through them. We've made progress on many, but not all of the provisions. We hope to conclude that, but it takes both sides to settle. So if we can't settle, the hope is that we could possibly settle health care and salary sooner rather than later, and that way we would be able to get our teachers their well-deserved raises. At this point, it would be January? Mm-hmm. If that were to happen, that the retroactive pay and the salary increases would occur in January. To the extent that that does happen, we would be maintaining 2 payroll models, as we explained earlier, and there's a cost to that. So it is our hope to do that sooner rather than later.
Okay, so there's no way that they will get it before the holidays? It'll be...
Not at this point. The time wouldn't allow that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krasner. Are there any other questions or comments by board members? Okay, all those in favor, we have a motion with a second, I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And thank you so very much for your hard work. We appreciate it. Moving on to new business, items introduced by the superintendent.
Yes, Madam Chair and school board members, I had a distinct privilege to travel to Washington, D.C. to receive and to work with our former principal, Dr. Elaine Miles, who was the principal at the time of Tarpon Springs Fundamental Elementary School. That school is being recognized as one of the top 349 national blue ribbon schools in the United States, and I was very proud to be with Dr. Miles and also the current principal, Holly Oakes, and also with Michelle Morris, who's a library media specialist. They allow you to select one individual from the staff to represent the staff, and so the 4 of us were there. but Secretary Betsy DeVos was there and certainly added her congratulations to it. So is our own Floridian Frank Brogan, who talked with our various schools across the nation. So the last time that we were being recognized for the Blue Ribbon School was in 2006, and it was the same school. So we're going to continue. This is not an application program, but rather a recognition where you have to be tapped by the National Blue Ribbons Schools. So congratulations to the entire staff of Pinellas Tarpon Springs Fundamental School. I will try to and work to visit the faculty tomorrow morning just to personally congratulate them and for the job that they continue to do. It was absolutely a Tarpon Springs end of week as I then went and traveled to work and with the principal at Tarpon Springs High School, Lisa Fedeletis, and for the Bands of America, the National Grand Championship. As you know, this is the Tarpon Springs they attend this national championship every other year, and this was the year that they went. They competed against 108 outdoor marching bands, and they finished 5th, and I believe their show is on YouTube. I will provide the board this link. It was an outstanding show. I might have been a little bit biased, but I thought theirs was the very best of the final 12. They go from 108 to 35, and to 35 to 12, and then we come back. I was exhausted just watching. I don't know how the students do that, but when you want to see an example of excellence and all around, I addressed and talked with over 150 parents who are in charge of moving the props and chaperoning and what commitment. We talk about parent involvement here today with a proclamation. If you want to see in action, take a look at the Tarpon Springs Band Booster. They are raising money. That is not an inexpensive endeavor that they raise money to do. So I couldn't be more in awe of the entire performance, the 250 member band, and I could tell you that everything that defines us, they displayed when we think about excellence, parent involvement, student engagement, the teachers there, Mr. Ford and all of the others, they strive for excellence every day. And it truly filled me with continued hope of advancing our district. So I enjoy going, and I certainly want to add my support, as I've added this board's support of that too. So congratulations to them. I will get you that film or that video from YouTube. I also want to recognize the Pinellas Park High School students. They won the Congressional App Challenge. You know, nowadays there's a lot of app challenges, and this one was done by Charlie Chris, the Congressional App Challenge. And the app was to help veterans access services and resources more efficiently and effectively. And the students presented their winning app at the USF St. Pete's to judge for the judges and the local businesses and retired members of the military. And the winning app will be used by the Department of Veteran Affairs, and the team will travel to Capitol Hill this spring, where they will demonstrate their app to the representatives at the celebration called #House of Code. No pun intended, but you know, there's a series, House of Cards. This is House of Code. So the #House of Code students get to see their app displayed at the U.S. Capitol building this spring. We'll meet with their representatives. It's going to be a wonderful experience for all students. I certainly want to congratulate Pinellas Park High School and Brett Patterson, the principal. I too want to add my thoughts about the Great American Teach-In, which is tomorrow, and thank all those individuals, board members, and anyone that will be coming into our schools. Our students, our principals, truly appreciate your day of sharing, and that's how I look at it in terms of your occupation and anything you can add to the students. And it's always good to have a little bit of a fresh voice and a fresh face in front of a classroom sometimes. So thank you in advance for all those individuals who will be attending and participating. And certainly it doesn't have to begin and end with tomorrow, but anytime you want to visit our schools and share your occupation with them, I'm sure our schools and our school-based volunteer facilitators will help you. I want to remind that parent survey opened up yesterday, in fact, November 12th, and that's part of our advanced ED survey as we're working towards accreditation. And this survey is open did open yesterday and will stay open to December 14th until we get a great participation. And so at my parent cadre meetings, I'm advertising it. I encourage the board to continue to do the same. We had some wonderful district application program fairs, both at Gibbs and Largo High School. Thank you to the board members who were able to attend. We had tremendous participation from all schools. And now we're in the phase of where any student wants to shadow students. They can certainly, it's like job shadowing, but student shadowing, and participate in some of the evenings where you can go to a particular school and certainly take a look at what they're doing there. And that there's no better thing than to go into a school where your student can shadow another student for a complete day. It's been noted, as this is our last meeting before our Thanksgiving holiday, I'd like to say, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, to say how thankful I am, not only to serve as superintendent, but also to serve with this board. And maybe mix my feelings of Thanksgiving with a thankful heart of saying thank you to Mrs. O'Shea, thank you to Ms. Krasner, and to Mrs. Lerner. You know, I add up your years, and I think the paper wrote an article too, over 50, right around 50 years. That's a lot of experience, and I can't thank you enough for your leadership. It's truly under your leadership, and I want you to reflect on this over the next several weeks or months, that this district is a far better place than it's ever been before. Historic rates of graduation, historic rates of achievement, historic rates in terms of the fiscal responsibility that we've come through. We were through the aftermath of a recession that we needed to regroup, and this board did. The movement and aggressive nature of addressing and attacking this issue of an achievement gap that for years perhaps has been a sidebar conversation, we moved it to center stage. And I want to thank you for your leadership of that. I want to thank you for going out and bonding so that our students can receive a top world-class education in facilities that are world-class facilities, not second-rate facilities, and being more aggressive in that. I want to thank you for requiring that this board and future boards maintain a contingency account that holds us all fiscally responsible for that. And I want to thank you for pushing the numerous programs, too many that I can mention here today. But at the end of the day, it results in the highest historic graduation rates that our students have. And not only that, but the strongest career technical programs, the strongest gifted programs, ESC programs, and many others that is really based on your leadership, your constant leadership, not in one meeting, not in one day, but consistently over a long period of time, that this district will remember you by, and you certainly have left a legacy with me. So thank you so much for your service. That concludes my comments.
Just one item, Madam Chair, and that is to reiterate what Dr. said and Dr. Grego said, and is to thank Mrs. Lerner, O'Shea, and Krasner for your public service on this board. It's been an honor and a privilege to represent the board with you leading it and on it and participating in it, and you'll be sorely missed. I wish you the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Items now introduced by the board. I have Ms. Krasner, Ms. O'Shea, Ms. Long, and Ms. Cook.
I probably shouldn't have pushed too fast. I probably should have let Ms. O'Shea go first. But I always said that you're as good as the people you're surrounded by, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Even though it's only been 8 years on the board, I did do 35 years in our school district with several other superintendents and attorneys and teaching and learning and all the other different positions around. And I couldn't be more proud of what you all bring to us, because we don't create these things. We really listen to you. We know that your research and the way you go out to the community and to our teachers and to all of our educators, I mean, we can't do it alone. And I hope that same momentum continues, where you realize it's not about you, it's about all of us. And thank you.
Ms. O'Shea?
Yes. Well, thank you to everybody here today. It's certainly been a privilege to serve on this board. Excuse me, I've had a cold for the last 3 days. Serving with the various board members over the years, as well as staff here in this building and in all of our schools. You've been tremendous to work with. And it's everybody working together that has created all these improvements and recognitions and things that we've seen over these years. And so I thank you for all of that and for all your continued work. With three of us leaving today, I want to comment, Mrs. Krasner, you leave a legacy, your entire family leaves a legacy in this district. As teachers, administrators, coaches, can't forget the coach, and school board members, plural. And so you'll always be remembered for that and for the service for your entire family. Mrs. Lerner, I don't know that there are appropriate words to describe your passion. No, seriously, and your dedication to all the students of Pinellas County. You've always served every child in this county well. Through your efforts as a school board member, your charitable efforts throughout this district and in the county. And you'll always be remembered for that. And I know you're not going away. You reminded us of that you will be here for quite a while, and I'm glad to hear that. And ladies, the three of us now will no longer be under the sunshine. So we're going to get together and have quite a conversation, and you'll hear from us. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Ms. Long?
Yes, first of all, I have to tell you, I was there to see the Tarpon Springs marching band leave for, first they were going to Cincinnati. You know, watching them, 6 buses, they were so organized, it was mind-boggling. I had an opportunity to talk to the kids and get on the buses and wish them well. What a wonderful assembly of children and the parents, and of course Mr. Ford. And I was invited for next year, so I'm going to be booking my ticket to go back to Indianapolis. That's almost home for me, so I'm excited. But the most important thing, Mrs. Lerner, Mrs. O'Shea, Mrs. Krasner, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for making me feel welcome when I came aboard and for teaching me as I joined the board, but as a teacher. Thank you for all you've done for us, for our students, for our parents. You are phenomenal ladies, and I wish you all the very best.
Ms. Cook?
I'm going to start with the easy part.
Okay.
And I'm going to share that Dr. Grego and some of the staff members and I attended the Council of Great City Schools. And I want to tell you how proud I was of some of our staff members who presented.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brinson presented on bridging the gap. And then Ms. Wright, Mr. Poth, and, not Ms. Hires. Janetta Hagenbrook.
Yes.
I think I got Hagenbrook. All presented on restorative justice. They did an outstanding job. I was proud to say that I was from Pinellas County. So I just wanted to share just how great a job they did. And the rooms were packed for both of them. And they all had a lot of questions that were asked afterwards, and y'all can be quite proud of them. But the better part is they're implementing it in our district. And that's something that's just absolutely wonderful, along with all the staff. The grants committee for the Education Foundation, I'm talking to guidance counselors, I'm talking to parents, I'm talking to students. The deadline for filling out the application is coming up very soon. It's going to be in January. So over the Thanksgiving break or over the winter break, I'm encouraging them to fill out those applications. One application will allow seniors to be eligible for several different scholarships and be considered for those scholarships. So when I looked at the data for our meeting tomorrow, we have a lot of people that have started, but not many that have finished. So we really, really need anybody who sees or knows a senior, encourage them to fill out that application. I think I mentioned it earlier, but Reagan Miller is here with us. She has worked with the Pinellas County Council of PTAs to get some of the legislators into our schools for the Great American Teach-In. So I wanted to thank her for doing that and getting them in. I think it's going to be good that they're going to be able to see what goes on, and I hope the kids ask them questions as hard as they asked us when we were with Students' Rights and Responsibilities. So thank you for doing that, and we move forward. And I'm going to do it. Mrs. Lerner, Mrs. O'Shea, and Mrs. Krasner. It has been an honor to serve with you. I'm a baby. It's been a pleasure to be on a board that challenges each other, that is willing to have differing opinions, to still be able to respect each other, and to keep the children at the very center of what we're doing. That's what you all have done. Our district is better, it is stronger, and our students have benefited because of the work you've done. I thank you. You all know how I feel about you, so I'm not going to go any farther. But thank you. I appreciate it. I've learned a lot from all of you, and I hope it has helped me be a better board member as well. But thank you for your service, and I look forward to seeing you and having conversations with you that are not in the sunshine. Thank you very much.
I'd like to start out by talking about Mrs. Krasner and Mrs. O'Shea. Even though I've been kind of highlighted because I spent so long on the board, but I knew Mrs. Krasner from the time she was an AP at Starkey Elementary, and then 18 or 19 years at Westgate, and I visited those schools, and she was wonderful, and she has brought the perspective of someone who really knows the district, from teacher, assistant principal, principal. You have brought so many good suggestions, and I know talking about parent involvement, we try so hard to get it, and sometimes we don't. And Terry, I'll call you Terry, okay, I can also remember you saying how you prepared your students that if they didn't have the parent involvement, they had everything they needed to do the assignment and understand it. So thank you so much for your 35 plus 8 years devoted to this community and district. And Mrs. O'Shea, I also knew you before you were on the board, and Mrs. O'Shea has an really strong background of professional and community experience. You were appointed by the governor to be the chair of the Early Learning Coalition. And I can remember when there was advocacy for Gibbs High to get a new building and other things. And you were there because you were the SAC of Gibbs. So also for Mrs. O'Shea, it really is your many, many years of dedication to this community and school board, and we will get together and we will talk. So thank you. I've said some of these things before, but I just want to thank everybody. What Dr. Grego said, and I always tell the truth, is true. We are at the best place that we've ever been. And it's all of you and all of you that may be watching that really put us there. Whenever I speak, from the start of the time I was on the board, I've always said our employees are the best. And we're all educators, everybody. Support staff, everyone who works in this district is certainly driving us toward our goal of 100% success for all students, and also enabling our students, I better read the words exactly, educate and prepare each student for college, career, and life. I really have that memorized. And we wanted a mission. I was here when missions were paragraphs, and I really know that one. My son Josh is here. He wanted to come to a meeting in person. And also, I want to mention Josh and Paula Texel, because Josh went to Bowder and Seminole Middle with her. So we may... Seminole, oh, not Bowder. Okay, that's all right. But I know there are others in the room that stand for, I am so appreciative of personally the education, both my sons, that got in Pinellas County Schools and the success they've had related to that. I am a persistent optimist. I know what good educators we have. The person I probably have known the longest, and I've known many of you, and I value the relationships, both professional and personal. And I've always felt to be a good school board member, you have to know the questions to ask. I think I've asked too many sometimes, but you always gave me good answers, so I always appreciate it. But Dr. Hires, I knew her when she was at Bowder Elementary, who taught math to my son, Michael. And I really appreciate it, so thank you. And I think you stand for so many in this room that are so dedicated to be sure every student has 100% success. I did the math, 600 meetings, wow. And just an aside, which is so trite, I remember my first agenda book. What do I remember, the one thing I remember is $50,000 for canned pears. Now we give fresh fruit. So I looked at that and I thought, wow, this is really a big district. And I envisioned the canned pears going into the trash. That doesn't happen anymore. I know we have our head of food and nutrition here, and I have seen certainly, I always eat lunch at schools when I'm there. I try to. So it's just canned pears. It's not the whole food and nutrition. I know it sounds trite. You know how things kind of, get in your mind? I'm a persistent optimist. I finally train people when they say, you're retiring, and I say, not really. Now I'm going to have to say, yes, but I'm still involved. For my first campaign, I said, I want to make Pinellas County Schools a better district for everybody. Now I would say I want to make a very good district better. And I thank Dr. Grego and the whole team that's represented here and out there. What Dr. Grego said is true. We are in a very good place. And I'm optimistic the new board will work well together. And I look forward to watching the meetings. I started out there advocating, and I may just end up there, not every meeting or anything like that, but once in a while. So thank you. It's been the privilege, one of the greatest privileges of my life. Thank you.
Ms. Lentino.
Well, kind of a lot of teary-eyed up here, huh? But I must really acknowledge Terry Krasner, Peggy O'Shea, and Linda Lerner for their esteemed leadership while I was here. I was 2 years on the board. I'm going into my third year now, and I certainly appreciated all the help and support that they have given me. They've led by example, and I certainly appreciate that very much. So on to my business. It's been very exciting being on the school board because I get an opportunity to go to many different places, and I participated in the Spiffs Parade, and I was also with Mayor Rick Kreisman as he was giving his opening address. And we also had the inductees for the people that were immigrants, a very diverse population in the Spiffs Parade that have committed and have all become citizens. That was very heart-moving, and it was a very worthwhile experience to see all the various different cultures that are diversity in our community. The Lakewood High School newspaper, I read it from cover to cover. It's an excellent publication, and I suggest that everybody that's on the school board should really take the opportunity to read it. The Mayor's Breakfast I attended, Clearwater Intermediate I attended, the PACE Center for Children and the young women that are coming up in our schools. I attended a presentation there. Tomorrow I'm going to be, as a member of the PTA, I'm going to be providing the refreshments for the Gulfport Elementary School. 30 people that are going to be attending that school, and I'm going to be providing the refreshments, because then I'm going to be going on to Eisenhower Elementary School for another experience there, making butter with one of our teachers up there. CoQuebs, it's very important that I was there, because we really need to focus on early education. If we don't have early education, good supports with pre-K, kindergarten, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in our schools, how will we be able to move the achievement gap? How will we be able to close the gap in middle schools and high schools? Healthy St. Petersburg, there was a wonderful reception, luncheon at the Marriott Hotel, and Kathy Eden was the one that was doing the presentation on poverty, and the poverty related so much to hunger, and of how she has traveled all across our country to really carry that flag for, we've got to be really letting know what these people that were in our community, what they really need to focus on. Many of these people that are hunger deprived don't know what their opportunities can be. Sometimes we have social workers that will avoid some of these people, and sometimes we will have social workers that will embrace some of these people. But we really need to get the word out to make sure that we are focusing on the people that are hunger deprived in our community. I've attended the POW breakfast, and I was also at Palm Harbor Middle School. What a wonderful veterans presentation they had on last week. It was an excellent opportunity for me to be there. They had a wonderful school. They had 2 presentations, and I also was in the media center having a beverage, and it was I think it was Bill Arakis's aide was talking to me about trying to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So we had a lively conversation about that. The 74th Street schools that I visited, I was visiting the speech therapist there. We had a really good conversation, and we're looking forward to a lot of changes maybe in that school, hopefully. The teacher that's doing the speech therapy over there, we have several teachers that are there. They're really anxious, and they're really engaging the children that are on the spectrum, and we want to really help improve those children's ability to move forward. So, and then this morning, I'm reading Young Kids Are Ready for School, and Mr. Eakins from the Hillsborough Superintendent's office, he's been really trying to focus on getting our children ready from pre-K, getting them ready by 3rd grade. He's hoping to see that from pre-K all the way to 3rd grade, our children need to be on task. They need to be focused, they need to be good to go. And how that's going to help is by the time that we as teachers, myself included, are focused on the school on the South 19th Street, and that's the Happy Workers School down there. I go there every week. I give 3 hours of my time, and then I also give every week an hour of my time at Gulfport Elementary School. We've got to make sure our children are prepared and ready to go when they hit kindergarten, and they know their letters, they know their sounds, and they know the several of the words that are always plastered on the word wall. So we want to really help and make sure that our children are 100% ready to go in our school district. Because if we don't have the 100% children that are ready to go, we will surely be hard-pressed to close the achievement gap when we get into high school. So we've got a lot of good programs going on, and again, I want to thank Terry and Peggy and Linda for their esteemed leadership, and it's a privilege to serve the citizens, the teachers, the children, and the parents in our community. Thank you.
I'm going to briefly just do my announcements and then get through what I need to get through without crying. Yay, I'm going to trust and believe in that one. The first is, excuse me, just a reach out, if you will. There was a young lady who was sitting on her porch Sunday morning eating breakfast, and she was shot and killed while sitting on her porch eating breakfast. It was not about her. A gentleman was shooting from a house across the street at a car that was traveling down the street, and one of the bullets struck and killed her. She has 5 children ranging from the ages of 1 to 17. The older children are part of our Pinellas County school system. I am working with Commissioner Kim Welch and the chair of the City of St. Pete City Council, Lisa Willa Bowman, to put together some items that the grandfather will desperately need for these children. He is the father of the young lady that was slain. Her name is Aisha Kendrick. She was 36. And this gentleman is 70, and he has 5 children to care for. I know we typically don't do this, but Lisa, Ken, and myself will be working on a GoFundMe page for the family, because there will be need for assistance in burying her. We're reaching out to a funeral home to see if they will help us take care of the arrangements for her. Dr. Grego, I'm going to ask, and I will provide the names, I didn't want to do that publicly, of the children, so that our team can provide any counseling, because they were home. She had given them breakfast, and she went out front to have her breakfast on the front porch. So if we could do that, and I'm also going to ask if we could maybe work with the grandfather to keep them in the school that they're in, because he doesn't live in the same zone where they lived previously, to have some consistency in their lives. For the 17-year-old, it's real difficult. So I'm going to ask for your help on that, and I'll give you those names. The grandfather's name, I can say his name is Paul Lucas Jr., I think he's already stepped up to do a yeoman's job. But we are, looking for help and support for the family. So everything from Pampers to formula on up. But specifically the counseling is kind of hard, if you could imagine children being home when that happens to their mom. So if I can get your help in that one. 1-year-old to 17, and there are a total of 5 children. The other is, we did have Souls to the Polls. I'm not talking about it from a political perspective. I'm just mentioning it from a civic engagement perspective. There were a number of teens there who volunteered, and they attend our schools, and I think that was a very good lesson for them on how to become engaged and how to bridge what they're learning in class versus what, the elections actually are. So I'm really appreciative of that. I will be at Lakewood High School first thing in the morning for the Great American Teach-In. So just wanted to mention that. I'm grateful for going there. I just want to say thank you for the continued leadership in adjusting our safety plan as we try to implement it. I want to say thank you to Mr. Clint Herbig and our Chief of Police, Mr. Luke Williams. We've been receiving a number of emails. You all have responded very quickly to those emails to provide that level of comfort for the parents. So I just want to reach out and thank you all for that. I was voted in as the permanent vice chair for the R Club Board of Directors. As you all know, I serve representing Pinellas County Schools. I was the interim because the young lady who had that position, she moved away out of town, but I was voted in to serve as 1 year for the vice chair of that. So that would be for the R Club and for the Louise Graham Center. So on to my lovely, lovely ladies who won't be here on the dais, but you will still be with me. So I'll start with Terry. I didn't know Terry, but I met her when she campaigned the very first time. She showed up at the Sanderland Center. I don't know if you remember this. She showed up at the Sanderland Center with like an army of teachers with blue shirts and white lettering, Terry Krasner. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this? And so she came in and made an impact on me that day, and I got a chance to meet her. And of course, the conversation went on to about Her father, who served on the board, was also a principal over at Northeast High School. And we've kept very positive dialogue, not to mention she was a principal at the school that I attended as an elementary school student. So I really love the information that you bring forth when you're talking about bridging that relationship between principal and teacher and support staff, because you've actually been there to do it. And Linda, you are so correct. Terry's always talking about, if the parent's not available, what does the child need in order for the child to be successful? Doing parent visits in Jordan Park, which sometimes can be a little daunting if you're not familiar with the climate there. But I want to thank you for that. And I know for a fact that you will continue, even though you need that little breathing room. I look forward to seeing your face. You're going to be doing something else. And we look forward to you continuing to lead that level of expertise, because when you get here on the board, it is very different than what you see on the other side of this dais. And so I really appreciate you doing that. And I'm still going to call you. I can call and talk to you now. To Miss Peggy O'Shea. Miss Peggy O'Shea, I first met, she may not remember this, I was serving under Darryl Roussan, who was the president then of the NAACP. And we were going through the green factors, and we were going through a discussion with Ajax, who were the contractors to build Gibbs High School. And Darryl was now Senator Darryl Roussan was adamant about minority inclusion in that project, because you had one of the largest construction projects going on and a number of small minority businesses that could lend and employ people from the community. And you supported that. You weren't the only one, but you really supported that. So I want to thank you for that. And you did serve as the SAC chair, because you had a student that was attending Gibbs, but you continued your service even after that and support. So I want to thank you for that. I believe you also were a mediator in a business, and so that definitely shows where you had that skill set to be able to be that middle ground person, not for or against, but just let's look at both sides of the issue and come to a reasonable solution. And so I'm going to miss that in you. And also, the very first out-of-town meeting I went to with FSBA, when they were including all the districts, we were in Destin. You all don't remember, you were in Destin, and you all helped me navigate all the different committees, because I was the only one coming on by myself. You were right there supporting me, introducing me to people within FSBA, telling me the committee structure and all of that stuff. And so I thank you for that, because that's how I was able to move into certain positions, specifically being chair of the advocacy committee with FSBA. I wouldn't have been able to do that if you guys had not held my hand across that line. And Miss Linda Lerner, to correct you, I'm going to get you straight, woman. I love it. But Miss Linda Lerner has, as I said to the reporter, I meant every word of it. You have such institutional knowledge up here. Things that persons may have forgotten, who was the superintendent at the time, who was in the community. You bring all of that to the table so that we can understand what happened long ago and how did we get where we are, so we know where we need to go. You brought all of that level of expertise. You brought a subject matter that may have been uncomfortable for a lot of people at the time, but you felt like it was important that the district recognize, understand, and have representation for the LGBTQ community. And you did it in such a way that you made sure students had a voice, you made sure teachers had a voice, all voices were represented at the table. And so now we have a broad perspective of inclusiveness across the district that I don't think we would have necessarily had it not been for you. But more importantly, I'm just gonna miss your little laugh. You got that little chuckle, you and then you start out and say, well, I wasn't gonna say anything. And then she says everything. And I love it, because you know that whatever's coming is coming from your heart, right? It's not coming from a place of selfishness. It was coming from your heart. And so I'm not going to say I'm going to miss that, because we have other groups that we're involved in together that we will see each other. And I know that you will still be there. Thank you so much for continuing to serve with the Education Foundation Committee when it comes to technical trades and things of that nature. I look forward to your voice. But I look forward to all three of you guys holding us accountable for the job that we were elected to do, and that is making sure that education is first and foremost on this district's agenda. So I love you ladies to the moon and back. I'm not going to say goodbye because if you don't call me, I'm calling you. All right. So I did that without crying. I did that without crying. So thank you all so very much for your service. And we will just move forward. Dr. Corbett, do we have any board requests?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have two. We had one was to be sure to provide parents and students with changes in the concordance scores, graduation requirements, and the valedictorian and salutatorian requirements to keep them updated on the changes we made. And the second is, I believe Donna Sicilian probably has already done it, but if she hasn't, we will follow up with the children of Miss Kendrick and make sure that they get the counseling and support that they need to be successful in school.
Thank you. And I will keep you all abreast of what's going on with them as well. Thank you all so very much for that. So now I will hit the gavel for the last time for my three colleagues, but that doesn't mean that it will be the last time in my life and the lives of those of us that are remaining up here on the dais. Following my gaveling, we will have additional comments from the public, from any speakers that we have. Ms. Ann Simonet.
Board members and Dr. Grego, we have 5 speakers this afternoon, under general public comments. Our first 2 are Marianne Christ and Reagan Miller.
Good afternoon. My name is Marianne Christ, and I'm pleased to be here today. And I didn't know I was coming to a retirement party. So congratulations, ladies. And I wanted to ask you to think about something, change gears for a moment. I'm here because I have a dream. I work with children. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm also a support staff, an ESD support staff at McMullen Booth at this time. I work with the autistic children. And all my life, I've had a dream to have a school for boys that don't have parents. And 8 years ago, I found the school for my boys. And I go there and I drive around and I pray and I drive around and I pray for 8 years. And I didn't know what to do to get this school. So that's why I'm here. I want to have a school that teaches boys to be good people, to teach them to sew and cook and fish and sail and how to drive a car and have a bank account. And I found the building that I need to have for this school, and it's called Northward Elementary School in Clearwater, and it's been abandoned for 8 years. And I just wanted to ask you to think, I came here to ask you to sell it to me today, and I changed my mind as I was sitting here, and I don't want to buy it from you. I want you to donate it for this purpose. And I just want you to think about that. And if you think about it and you come up with an answer, you can reach me at McMullen Booth Elementary School. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Grego, and staff. I'm Reagan Miller. I'm the Vice President of Advocacy for Pinellas County Council PTA. And on behalf of Pinellas County Council PTA and all of our local units, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Mrs. Lerner, Mrs. O'Shea, and Mrs. Krasner. Ms. O'Shea, your no-nonsense approach has helped make so much progress in implementing various programs throughout your years of service. Mrs. Lerner, you have always been so thoughtful in connecting with the community and seeking out the thoughts of the stakeholders, and you have carefully weighed both sides of every decision. Ms. Krasner, your insight into the classroom has allowed us to understand what our teachers do each and every day, helping us to be better advocates for them, and you've been an amazing voice for the parents. So we value our relationship with each one of you, and working together with you guys has made us all better advocates here and in Tallahassee. So thank you so much.
Our next two speakers are Mark Clutho and John Comer.
Mark Clutho, Largo. Here's the headline: punishing 4 years as Carolinas recover from the latest 100-year flood. And a triple threat from climate change: more rain and larger storms on rising seas. The link between global warming and hurricanes is real. As I've said before, the correlation between your stupid buildings belching the carbon and this weather is real. But you continue to ignore the science. And what do I see at the meeting? Peggy O'Shea coughing into her hand says, "I have a cold." How many public service announcements have there been made? You don't do that. And the chair calling the dais a dais. How pathetic. And then we've got a lot of good programs. No, we have a lot of good programs. You don't even know the language. So it's going to be the same with the 3 new ones replacing the duds up there now. In this article in the paper, I wanted to make things better for everybody, but nearly two decades I bring the science of high-performance passive solar buildings, and Lerner just flagrantly rejects that science. Flagrantly rejects it, along with all the rest of the board. Not just the ones sitting there now, but the ones before. And so what do they say by 2040? It's going to be hell on earth. Oh, so what did she say? I wanted to make things better. It's not going to be better. And this is really good. She is a bulldog for what she believes in, said Andrea Massini, director of the Florida School Boards. What a joke. Believes in? I love that preposition there. No, what? Believes. Just believes. You people are absolutely pathetic. It's dim, very dim.
Miss Linda Lerner.
This is the last time I can give some history about Mr. Clutho. He's been coming, I think, for about, Tom Todd, may he rest in peace. Tom was the chair, probably 16 years.
2001.
20?
Was he the last one?
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, 2001, okay. When he first started coming, Dr. Hindsley was the superintendent. And he had Mr. Clutho meet with Tony Rivas and others. There were about 3 or 4 meetings to explain what we're doing. He had the respect and information from the district. And I just needed to give that backup information. I believe in his right to speak, as long as he stays on a subject and doesn't do something very problematic. I mean, some of the things he says are problematic, but he has the right to say them. So just a little history, and just to say that the time I've been on the board, we've made access to information and ability of people to speak and transparency in this district, and I thank everyone related to that.
Thank you. Ms.
For what it's
Simonetti.
worth.
Thank you, Ms. Simonetti.
Not sure what to do after that opening. My name is John Comer. I'm here because you guys are in transition, and I wanted to introduce you to a transition that is occurring in the United States that will have an effect on you that you cannot even imagine. I come from the center of the fifth largest economy in the world, and it is driving what we call the fourth industrial revolution, the age of automation. Now, the fifth most powerful economic country in the world, of course, California, and I come from Silicon Valley. We have a very different perspective of the world than you folks do. Sitting through this meeting, it's amazing. We don't use the same statistics. We really don't. We use very different statistics. So that as I listen to what you have to say, I have to figure out where that's coming from. When you listen to what I have to say, you're going to have the same problem. Where does he get that stuff? The age of automation is going to change your life. It's going to change the way you work. And it's going to change the school board. Because what you're doing in your schools today will have to disappear in the next 20 years. It's just going to have to go away. Because what you do is not productive in the world I come from. And the world I come from is where the world is going. Fourth Industrial Revolution, the age of automation, is going to change our labor force. It's going to divide our labor force in a way to the top 30% of which will be involved in my area, and the bottom 70% will be pretty much what they're doing today, only they will be being automated out of their jobs because they're inefficient. What I decided I better do today, we brought with us an outline of the thing that happened. Oh, I guess I didn't tell you what the big thing that happened is. Apple, Google, IBM, and the tech companies just threw out college degrees as a requirement for employment.
Sir, if you have anything that you would like
And
to
if you don't
distribute,
think,
if you have anything that you would like to distribute, you can give to our administrative assistant. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes.
Okay,
And you
okay,
have
sure.
utilized
all
your
right.
3
The
minutes.
next speaker is the one that's going to distribute our week.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be back. You will have the information, a summary of what I have.
Thank you,
And you
sir.
can take a look at it and see what you think.
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jill Applegate,
Okay.
and I'm going to hand out the information that Mr. Comer talked about so that you can review it before he comes back for the next board meeting.
Okay, you can give it to Ms. Ann Simonetti, and she will distribute it to each one of us. Yes, ma'am, if you could give it to her. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if it's someone after her. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is there another speaker, please? No more speakers. There are no more speakers. We will go ahead and have our wrap up here in the back. As always, we want to end the meeting on a very positive note. And today's note will be, your beliefs don't make you a better person. Your behavior does. Thank you.
Truly.
And also enabling our students